Realistic art, in the most basic sense, is art that accurately reflects reality. Paintings and photographs can easily be realistic since they need only portray a single frame of life. Realistic cinema, however, must attempt to do the same, but over length of time. Although realistic films come in many forms, they all typically employ a similar set of traits that adhere to the style of realism. Realist cinema often lacks any sort of clear story arc or purpose. Abbas Kiarostami's Through the Olive Trees follows the lives of a film crew for a few days and briefly explores the life of Hossein Rezai. As is typical in realism, Olive Trees lacks a denouement. In the final scene, Hossein pursues his love interest into a field, but we are unable to hear what she says to him. The content also must be relevant to what is actually happening in the area the film is shot in, within a brief period of time. For example, Olive Trees is both set and filmed in earthquake-ravaged northern Iran. Since editing can easily create meaning that isn't inherent to the content itself, it is heavily de-emphasized in realism. The location changes after each cut must be minimal. We view the characters' movement through the movie world in nearly the same way that they do. Kiarostami achieves this partially by having two scenes in different locations merged by a car scene, so that the characters can move through space relatively quickly. Realist films usually consist of many long takes, drawing attention away from cuts and allowing the audience to experience more of the character's reality as it happens. Kiarostami reinforces this tactic by showing the many attempts that the film crew makes at filming a short scene.
سلام.
خدا قوت.
کات چرا جواب نمیدی؟ وقتی میگه خدا قوت بگو سلامت باشید. بعد
Everything that makes up a single shot in realist cinema, the mise-en-scene, lighting, set, even the actors themselves, is provided in the least artificial means possible. Realist films often use deep focus shots. This type of shot depicts almost everything in the frame in sharp detail, which allows the viewer to examine it in its entirety. This also lends itself to a lack of center of attention. As we can see in these two clips from Olive Trees, we are given a choice of what to focus on by the large depth of field. In the silent era, films relied on dramatized movement and expression in order to convey narrative. These trends eventually evolved into the classical Hollywood style after sound is introduced. With the advent of sound comes the classical Hollywood style. The style is soon perfected, giving way to a 30-year period of commercially and critically successful films. As a reaction to the predictable and glamorous Hollywood style, a movement began in France that portrayed the grittier side of life. Films from this movement, under the label of poetic realism, followed the stories of unsuccessful civilians at their lowest points. Poetic realism did give way to a new movement in Italy, neorealism. Italian neorealism is where the first realist films entered the mainstream. They were typically filmed on location, consisted of many long and static shots, and used non-professional actors. With the rise of various realist styles in Europe, Hollywood began to incorporate realist elements into the classical style. Deep focus shots became immensely popular, partially due to their employment in the widely influential Citizen Kane. Film noir adopted the documentary-like narrative of realist cinema, usually having linear narratives that encompassed only a few days or a week. Films, like The Third Man, were shot on location and their narrative reflected the recent or ongoing events at the actual time and location of their shooting. Reality TV is immensely popular today. Although clearly scripted, reality TV gives the viewer the sensation of watching reality unfold, while still maintaining the drama and glamour of Hollywood. Notably, cinematic realism has been distorted by the advent of computer-generated graphics. We are no longer able to distinguish what has actually been filmed and what is computer-generated, and there has been a rise in nostalgia for old-school films. The immensely popular Boyhood, for example, centered on a working-class family and used the same actors for the duration of its 12-year production.